Hello and welcome back to another episode of PopCulture Reacts as we are again playing in the list. So today we're getting 90s vibes. We're going all the way back to the early 90s with the Seahorses and Love is the Law. I'm gonna guess that you have heard this, but probably not in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably right about not in a long time. Although there is that little side of me that goes could have shown up on a '90s playlist or something like that. So it may have been even sooner, but I certainly remember it more from that era, and it being an oft played song during that kind of mid '90s range. And yeah, one I remember. Let's go with fondly. I don't want to commit too much. I don't want to spoil what we say afterwards, but yeah, I think it's been a good long while, and I'm pretty sure I listened to this album a lot as well. I don't know, they had more than one album, but I think this
Hmm.
was the album that. In fact, I probably got it in the house somewhere. It's probably hidden behind there because behind there are a load of CDs. So yeah, I may well still have the album in the house.
Yeah, it's obviously this is John Squire who, after he left Stone Roses or Stone
Yeah,
Roses imploded or however that all
yeah,
went down.
yeah. Whatever it was that happened with the Stone Roses. Wait for some sort of Netflix documentary or movie version of it. I'm sure, but
Yeah, this was his little brainchild afterwards. Um, I can only ever remember the first album. I would imagine they probably did have more albums, but like
do you
you
know
say,
what
I'm
though?
pretty sure it was only one I ever heard.
Do you know what? I think, in fact, to remember a little bit. I've actually got the wiki open.
Oh, oh, because
Yeah, no,
obviously
they
this.
they split whilst recording the second album.
Ah,
Yeah.
so that sounds awfully familiar to what happened with the Stone
Well,
Roses.
I
Maybe
guess
there's a
though,
constant.
maybe that's why I only remember really listening to the one album because the second one didn't exist. Yeah. It said that they went to Olympic Studios in January '99 to record the second album with the working title of Minus Blue and Motorcade. Tensions came to a head between Squire and Helm. So I think you probably are right with the. Fletcher later revealed that he witnessed Helm turn an Avery guitar into matchsticks during that session. Squire walked out of the studio and didn't return. The sessions were abandoned and the group split up.
Sounds about right.
Gotta love the rock and roll lifestyle, haven't you? And you know, like we talk about that kind of '90s era, and it's quite a thing, really, wasn't it? Like you
Yeah.
had, like you go back into bygone days, you had like some quite, I got that epic original big kind of rock lifestyle of sex, drugs, rock and roll, bands imploding, and I guess we went through like a heavy kind of mainstream music pop era. But yeah, that mid '90s era is the return of guitar bands being big. So yeah, you know, I think they were
It's
probably
like
just aping their heroes, weren't they?
yeah, because like famously the Lars fell apart after one album because it took them so long to actually record it, and then we got cast out of it. So swings and roundabouts.
And there was oh god, I'm blanking here. I'm blanking here because I'm trying to remember stuff from the '90s. The Long Pigs, loved
Yeah,
both their albums, but and I would have to fact check this, but I'm pretty sure because after the second album they kind of just stopped releasing stuff, and I'm sure the story is that the lead singer tried to glass the guitarist in a pub, and so they split up, and you just go, well, probably quite hard to come back from that, isn't it?
yeah. So shall we get our seahorses on and get back in that '90s nostalgia?
Yeah, let's get some lawful love going. Let's do this.
We lived in a dogfish head case, you could barely call it home. A sorry little lot, no roof was a almost slapper, and we always tried to get her pants off when she phoned. Left a cap by the sink, it's not what you think. Oh, take me home. Now we know where we're going, baby. We can lay back and enjoy the ride, taking the sights and drowning our senses. Love is the law, so take me deep inside. Strap on Sally, chased us down the alley, we feared for our behinds. Oasis was a shop with shoes so hot, they were sure to blow your mind. Running so fast I could taste the past, oh take me home. Now we know where we're going, baby. We can lay back and enjoy the ride, taking the sights and drowning our senses. Love is the law, so take me deep inside. These waters run deep, it's clear, my little one. Blue velvet star sky, not a sound. The light in your eyes, the smile on your ruby lips, tells me my lost soul is found. Now we know where we're going, baby. We can lay back and enjoy the ride, taking the sights and drowning our senses. Love is the law, so take me deep inside.
I mean, I think I'm trying to remember timing of this, but in a world where Sylvester Stallone was the law for a period of time,
Yep.
is love the law? Does that do it for you? Does it? Did it do it for you then? Does it do it for you now? I guess is the question.
Oh, it gets me right in the feels. I fucking love this. This Oasis cast, Blur, Phonics, all that like early in that indie stuff from that period was I all I was really listening to. It's pre me sort of getting into like metal and stuff, and I fucking love it. And Squire's guitar tone in this, which obviously is the same guitar tone that he has in the Roses, it just grabs me every time. I'm like, oh fuck, I love that guitar tone. It just
It's
sounds
interesting, isn't it?
so good.
It's interesting to revisit it so many years later because I'm with you on that guitar tone. I think I liked it at the time. I would go as far to say I loved it at the time and really loved that album. But I still think there were other albums out there and other bands that, I don't know, maybe pulled my attention a little bit more. But because they were thrust into my attention a little bit more, and you said it there, Oasis. I think very much this is Oasis in the ascendancy, kind of going along with the feeling and the fervour of the time, wasn't it? Where
Yeah.
I now listen to this back, and there's a bit of a half truth to this, but I listen back to this and I go, I think this is much better than a lot of the stuff that was being thrust into our face a little bit more. I, for a direct comparison to Oasis, which hasn't aged brilliantly for me in its entirety, except for What's the Story Morning. Not what's yeah. What's the first one? What's the first Oasis
Definitely,
album?
maybe.
Definitely, Baby. Sorry, yeah. That I still think has aged brilliantly well. What's the Story? Less so, but still a really good album. But yeah, I think this stands up against them as
Mm.
higher up in that league. Always tough, I think, when you do that comparison with Blur, because I think Blur were more of a fluctuating band, and not necessarily fluctuating in quality, but had that extra mile in them to do very creative things, even though probably their purple patch during that period was one of their least creative periods, wasn't it? It was more their
Yeah,
most probably their most generic sound initially when they start to make it big.
yeah. The thing with Blur, it was very much a case of their swan song for popularity is when they're basically trying to be like everyone else instead of being the weird arty kids
Yeah,
that they were when they started.
yeah,
Um, Obviously, your boys Radiohead were massive at this point, but is when you had like the Radiohead lot, or you had the we want to be like Oasis because Oasis sell shit tons of records.
yeah,
The thing with Oasis is most of their stuff that ages the best is all the B sides from the singles because that was where Noel could actually do some of his better work and sort of be that little bit weirder on stuff. That's held up quite well. But I won't listen to like what's the story now because I'm like I think it does with that because it was so overplayed and it was everywhere. Whereas stuff like this at the time you would have heard it on the radio because it would have been in the charts or it would have sat with
yeah.
everything else that was being played at the time. Whereas now, unless you're listening, like purposely going out to listen to a indies hits of the '90s, you ain't
Yeah,
gonna hear this.
yeah,
I
if that's
mean,
the
that's
Spotify playlist you pick, yeah, but it's not going to randomly turn up very often, is it?
yeah,
In sort of generic ones.
it's the thing. If you put on songs of the '90s, you will get Oasis, you will get Blur, you might get Radiohead, and at a push, maybe an Ocean Color Sing or the Verve, but it'll be just the one big song. Whereas if you then sit on like a '90s indie list, you're gonna get something like this and be like, ah, I remember those good days.
Yeah, and I think it's. You know, I said earlier, better than a lot of the stuff, but probably wasn't elevated because it was such a burgeoning time for British indie bands. Like
Yeah,
you know, that's the term we use, and but again, probably like not making a second album because of shenanigans, might have prevented that. But yeah, I feel like this in a quality for quality fight stands up against so much stuff that. As you say, is more in the consciousness of people now. That has pulled along. The only other thing I'd say on Oasis, because this isn't an Oasis one, is I think why Definitely Maybe still stands up so well for me is that's them learning how to do an album, isn't it? Like it's
yeah,
less overproduced. It's more. It feels like a group of lads in the case of this having some talent, getting in a room, probably drinking quite a lot, and writing songs that they think they'd like to listen to when they're drinking.
yeah,
Whereas, yeah, like later on, it becomes like faux Beatles. Whereas, of course, there's direct comparisons here with Stone Roses because of the link, but in that indie landscape, they feel like they're trying to go. This is the sound we want to do, not this is the sound that will
this isn't what
sell.
the Stone
Or
Roses
yeah,
third album would have been if I'd have stayed there, sort of thing.
or they didn't go like we like the Rolling Stones, so let's do our version of a Rolling Stones album, did they? They went let's
Yeah,
do an album that we like or that we think is good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. There's one huge thing that I need to cover off though. How on earth are you dropping the term and the band cast in any of this? That is, I bought the cast album and you know when you're a little kid and you first start buying
Yeah.
albums, you buy the stuff that's on the shelf and you joke about it later on in life because you go, "Oh, can't believe that's my first album." But after a period of time, you find your musical taste and you tend to love everything. Cast was the first album that I bought where I went, "Oh my god, music can be a con because this is absolute garbage." It sits in my and partially because of that kind of reaction to it, but it sits in my top 10 worst albums of all time.
I wasn't saying it for good purposes. I was just
Oh,
saying
good.
that the
That's all right
Lars
then.
went, because it's a famous
Yeah,
story of the rest of the band from the Lars ended up starting Cast because the
yeah,
singer of the Lars was weird and there wasn't the right amount of dust on the mixing board, so he scrapped a whole album's worth of recordings.
yeah,
That level of crazy, which
yeah, yeah,
but yeah, this just I'm all
yeah.
for it. I might end up chucking
Quality
this
song.
album on tomorrow.
Yeah, do you know what? As we were putting it in, and as I pulled up the wiki to see about the second album, I started to see the track listing, and I went, "Yeah, I'm listening to this album tomorrow."
So down there, any other indie hits from the '90s that may have been lost to the
Yeah.
passage of time that aren't the big boys?
Avoid Radiohead because we're going to be doing all the albums, so that's fine. You don't need to worry about them. And yeah, like I think probably we will know most of them because, as you say, for both of us, it was an era of music we were listening to a lot. But that's not to say we know everything. But I think the truth is as long as it's not Cast, we'll be very happy to get them back in our ear holes.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, there's going to be a lot of stuff from around there that I was massively into at the time and
Yeah.
haven't listened to in 25 years or so.
Yeah, and
So
sometimes
yeah,
that's one of the most interesting things, isn't it? We love listening to new stuff, but a lot of the time it is that revisiting, coming back to something with an eye of 20 years on, not only musically, but in our own lives. And does it resonate with us anymore?
yes.
And has it been
So
played to death by adverts, TV shows, all of the stuff where some of that music you used to love gets co opted into something that's horrible at this stage?
yes. So comments down there. Let us know. YouTube things like subscribe and ring bells. And until next time, goodbye.